what I'm going to do is I've got my Hangman game, and I want to check to see if I won the game. And so I'm going to create a little routine here to check to see if I win. And what I'm going to do to see if I win, all I do is I put an if statement here, and I say if the word is equal to the secret word. So if what I've guessed that's being displayed, I'm going to then say I win. So I'm going to disable the buttons, and I'll re-enable start so you can play another game. And I'll put a message box. Now what about if you lose? So what I did if you lose, the first thing I want to do is I want to add pictures to my game. And so I've drawn a picture for Hangman 0, the first guess, second guess, third, fourth, all the way to the end where you're going to lose. So how do you add those to your project? Well, there's all sorts of different ways to add graphics to a project. One of the first ways is I go to project, and I want to take a look at the properties of the project. So I go to the project properties, and I want to see what resources I have. And I can add a resource such as images, and you'll see I don't have any images. And what I can do is I can simply go to the folder of images that I had, this folder right here. I can select all of those, and my screen's not quite big enough, but they're all selected, and I can drag and drop them in here. And it's going to call the folders _0, _1. It just chose a name for it. That's fine. I can give it a better name, but it's fine enough. So how do I display one of these resources in my game? And you'll see in my project, I've got a folder called resources, and in that resources folder, all the pictures are there. I can just minimize that for now. But to get back to the coding of it, what I'm going to do is when I click on Start Game, I want to load the picture. And so I'm going to make a sub, just like I did for all the other ones. I'm going to make a sub here called Display Hangman, and I need to know the number wrong. Okay, so I've got display Hangman number wrong. So what is the number wrong? Well, let's create a global variable here called number wrong. And in the start game, what I'm going to do is when I press the start game and I start my game, how many wrong do I have when I start? Well, I should have none. So I'm going to say the number wrong is equal to 0 anytime I start a game. And then I'm going to, when I go to start a game, I want to display Hangman, of course. And I'm going to send to it the number wrong, which should be a 0. So I could just send a 0 to it, but I'm actually going to send the variable because it makes more sense here. Actually, maybe I'll cut it out and just do it like this. The number wrong is 0 because you're starting a game. And then let's display our Hangman. So display Hangman. How's it going to display the picture? Well, what it's going to do is I'm going to say if the number wrong is equal to 0, then I'm going to say in my form, let's just quickly look at the form. I've got a picture box in my form called picture box 1. So let's go back to the code. So I'm going to say that me picture box 1 dot image is equal to me resources. Me picture box 1 is equal to my resources. So me and my, pardon me. So my resources dot picture 0. And that's going to display picture 0 if it's 1. And then what I would do is if the number wrong is equal to 1, I would say I wanted to display my resources number 1, and so forth. And I hope all of you are thinking in your head right now, there's a better way to do than to do 7 different if-then statements. And I'll get to that in a second. So you'd carry on until you had all 7 characters. So where are we going to look at the number wrong and do that? Well, what we're going to do is anytime we guess the letter, I want to see if there was a change in what we guessed. So I'm going to create a temporary variable at the very beginning called string guessed so far, and it's going to be a string, and it's going to equal LBL temp word LBL temp word dot text. So this string guess so far is going to be what was in the label before we started to guess. And then to figure out if I had a wrong guess, I'm going to put an if statement, and I'm going to say if label temp word dot text is different. So if label temp word is not equal to string guessed so far, so if it's not the same as it was at the beginning of this subroutine, then I know that the number wrong is going to equal the number wrong plus 1. And finally, I'm going to display Hangman number wrong. So let's test and see if this works. I believe I didn't make any mistakes. So let's take a look and see if this works. So I press play. The form loads up. As soon as I press start game, it loads up the Hangman picture. If I guess a letter like V, ooh, number wrong increased. Oh, right, it's got to change, isn't it? Whoops. So I will need to fix it. It's going to guess every time it's different. Sorry, it does the opposite. I made a mistake here. Do you guys see the mistake? If the temp word is equal to what we guessed so far, in other words, it didn't change, that means we got one wrong. Do you guys see the difference? Yeah, sorry. So if the new temporary word is equal to what it was before, that means it did the whole thing. It went through all the letters and it didn't change. So that means you got one wrong. Whoops. Dumb moment there. Okay, last thing I want to do is I also noticed my picture didn't fit in here. Let me just show you a property I can change to fix that, and then we'll play the game. And I think we now have almost a fully working Hangman game. What I do is I go to size mode and I tell it to be stretch the image. So let's play it again, and hopefully everything's going to work absolutely perfect here. So I press start. There's my Hangman. I'm going to guess a V. Great, didn't change. I'm going to guess a L. Yep, there's a L. Let me guess a letter that's not there. Normally, if I play Hangman, I start by guessing vowels. So there's no A. There is a E, so it didn't change. I, there is a I. O, there is a O. U, there's no U, so you can see it's changing and so forth. I, of course, need to finish off. If you look at the code here, in display Hangman, I don't increment through all 7. And also, I would need to do something if I hit 7. So, for example, if number wrong equals 7, then I would not only display the last one equals my resource dot 7, but I would also need to message box you lose, you lost, and I might also disable all the buttons. So I'd probably do that as well when you hit 7. Now hopefully Sorry, last thing I want to say, and I'm not going to do this because I don't have time, but a better way would be to use the select case. That would make more sense in here rather than having the 7 if-then statements. But basically, there you go. You have the game, and that's all there is to it.